Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Welcome to episode 289 of Martha Runs the World. How are you this week? I am doing fabulous. I tell you, I had a terrific weekend. I'm going to tell you all about my trail run Saturday. It was really, really fun. There were a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but I'm going to tell you about that after the subject of this episode, which is the Continental Divide Trail, otherwise known as the CDT. And the thru hikers say, embrace the brutality. Yes, so that is this week's episode. The theme of this week's episode, I should say. There are three big American trails. Well, there are more, but the three big ones that are known as the Triple Crown: the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. If you thru hike all three of these, it's the Triple Crown. And you can section hike, you can run on them, you can trail run on them. A lot of people do fast packing on them. You can go out and go trail running on any part of the Continental Divide Trail. Like the Pacific Crest Trail is great to go trail running on. I've gone on a few sections of the PCT before. It's wonderful. They're great trails for trail runners, for hikers. And the CDT is a little different than the PCT and the AT, though. It's longer. It's 3,100 miles long, so it's the longest. It's also the toughest. It's not just the length that makes it more difficult. There's one trail, but there's also alternative trails. And much of the CDT, not much, I wouldn't say much, but there's a few miles of it that's on roads. There's some road walking involved, and there's alternatives. So you can do this part of the trail, or you can do this alternative. So it's not as clear cut as the Pacific Crest Trail, or especially the Appalachian Trail. It's more choose your own adventure type trail. That's the nature of the Continental Divide Trail, or what I'm going to call the CDT. It's a lot more brutal, and the personality of it is whatever you choose. The beginnings of the CDT started in Colorado. David Maseka and others from the Rocky Mountain Trails Association were the first to walk and mark the proposed CDT in Colorado. Their group of the soon-to-be-called CDT called themselves the Blue Can Trail because they marked the trail by nailing blue cans to trees so the Forest Service could locate and approve its locations. The Colorado Mountain Club also established in 1962 the recreation first segment of the trail, extending between the Empire and Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. Under President Lyndon Johnson, the passage of the National Trails System Act in 1968 officially designated the Appalachian and Pacific Crest Trails and directed that 14 other possible routes be studied, including the Continental Divide Trail. This helped the creation of the CDT. I tell you, I just have a little bit of a cough left, and it's just hanging on. It's just like, come on, can we get over this, please? The Department of the Interior conducted a study of the viability of the proposed Continental Divide National Scenic Trail, released in March of '77. So it took a while for this trail to actually be designated. The study found that trail users would wind their way through some of the most spectacular scenery of the U.S. and have an opportunity to enjoy a greater diversity of physical and natural qualities than found on any other extended trail. The proposed CDT also would provide the recreationist with examples of past periods of American development, examples of the many ways in which we now use our lands, as well as ways in which we could make better use of our resources through public awareness and appreciation of environmental relationships and good resource management practices. The National Parks and Recreation Land Act of 1978 amended the National Trails System Act by adding 5 trails to the system, including the CDT. The U.S. Forest Service was made the lead land management agency of the trail. In cooperation with the Bureau of Land Management and the National Park Service, but the act did not provide for any direct funding for planning or construction. Serving only the early iterations of the CDT Advisory Council, Jim Wolfe encountered many members who were initially quite cool to the whole concept of the CDT. So the authorization legislation of the CDT called for a management plan to be created, and in 1981, the CDT Comprehensive Plan was drafted to provide a uniform trail management program, which reflected the purposes of the National Scenic Trail System, and at the same time allowed for the use and protection of the natural and cultural resources found along the designated route on lands of all jurisdictions. Needless to say, it took until 2012. The CDT was finally incorporated under the Continental Divide Trail Coalition, and now the trail is 96% complete on public lands. And finally, we have mostly a whole CDT. As I said, there are sections where you have to walk on the road, but most of it is completed. So 96%. Like the AT or the PCT, through hikers choose to either go northbound or southbound, and that's Nobo or Sobo. Oh, and also like other 2 trails, most through hikers do go Nobo rather than southbound. But unlike the other 2 trails, many hikers choose to go southbound because of the unique weather conditions in the Rockies. So there are more through hikers that go southbound on the CDT than the other 2 trails. Of course, because it's 3,100 miles, it takes longer to hike the Continental Divide Trail than it does the other 2. It takes 6 months at least or more to hike the CDT. And the elevation is crazy, especially Colorado and Montana. You run into the Rockies, is just wild. For northbounders, the southern terminus is in Hidalgo County, New Mexico, right at the Mexican border. And then it winds its way through the New Mexican desert. This is rough country. It's desert. It's dry with 14 inches of rainfall annually. It can get very windy, at times very hot, and at others, especially at night, it can be very cold. There's very little water there. And they have water caches in metal boxes every 10, 15 miles. There will be a water cache. And they keep them in metal boxes, and you have to be careful because the metal box has shade. You have to be careful there's not rattlesnakes sleeping in the shade. Yeah, it's fun. And where there isn't a water cache, there's cow water. The ranchers will have cows out there in the desert, but they also have a water, these big water troughs for the cows, and sometimes that's the only water you're going to have to drink. So, of course, through hikers have really good water filters, so they've filtered the cow water to drink. Yeah, that's fun. Now, there are a couple rivers that they can come across, not necessarily in the first part of the state, but as they get more towards the north of New Mexico, there are a couple rivers. The Gila River will be the first one that they encounter. And then when they get towards the mountains, there's a lot more water available. Now, northbounders usually start in April, and southbounders will start in June or July. And like I said, it takes a lot longer to get through this trail than it does in the other ones, and the weather is always on hikers' minds. The CDT passes through 25 national forests, 21 wilderness areas, 3 national parks, 1 national monument, and 8 BLM resource areas. There are many wild animals on the trail, including bighorn sheep, elk, bison, marmots, Canadian lynx, grizzly bears, black bears, mountain lions, bobcats, pronghorn antelope, rattlesnakes, lots of deer, raccoons, rabbits, and other various critters. As the hikers move farther north, they move closer to the mountains and higher elevations. Northern New Mexico starts the Rockies, and the desert disappears. And once you hit Colorado, the San Juan Mountains will greet you, and it's some of the most beautiful mountains you'll ever see. And some iconic ultra races are in the San Juans, including the Ouray, Hard Rock, and High Lonesome races. And you also encounter weather there that can be dangerous. Thunderstorms are something you have to be very careful of because you have to get out of the high peaks. If you are in a thunderstorm and you're in the high elevation, you have to do your best to get down off the mountain. There's a thru hiker I like to watch, Dixie. She has Homemade Wanderlust is her channel, is her YouTube channel. And when she did the CDT, she was up really high up in the Rockies in Colorado, and there was lightning hitting, and she was so high up. It was very scary. It was a very frightening moment. And I don't know if she was so far up. I don't know if she could get down in time. Maybe she didn't get hit, obviously, but it was very, very scary, very frightening moment to show you just how real that lightning can be when you're so high up in the mountains. But if it's a thunderstorm or something, you don't keep going in the mountains. You get down. It's not something you want to do. I don't think she handled it as properly as she should have, basically. Now, from Colorado, you go into Wyoming, and that's wind. That's a windy state. It's probably always windy in Wyoming. It really is. I mean, then you get to the Grand Tetons, which are just incredibly beautiful. I have been to the Tetons, and they are just amazing, amazing mountains. And then in Yellowstone, and you have to get permits to camp in Yellowstone, and you have to get approvals to go in there. And if you can, I mean, there's a lot of work involved in thru hiking, especially getting into national parks. But if you can, that's an amazing place to go and visit once you're there. And then after that, of course, is Montana. And this is where you hope to still have good weather. You hope it's not snowing yet. You hope you've gotten up there in time. And it's a beautiful state. And again, more mountains. And you get to see the Great Wall. It's the Great Chinese Wall. I really wanted to see that. And then you get to Glacier National Park. And then you get to Canada and the Northern Terminus. So it's pretty amazing stuff. Pretty amazing trail. There are places on the trail where you have to choose. And there's like the main trail will be in blue, and then the alternative trail will be in red. And you have to choose which one. And sometimes it depends on if the main trail is washed out because of a flood or because something happened, a forest fire, wildfire or something. You may have to choose the alternative. And wildfires are another thing. There may be some parts of the trail you can't go into because of wildfire, and there will also be an alternative, or you may have to skip a segment because of wildfires. Another difficulty with the CDT is resupply. Thru hikers have to resupply every few days. They can't carry so much on their pack, more than 4 or 5 days. So they have to resupply. Resupplying on the CDT is not as easy as the other two trails. Now, the Appalachian Trail is super easy because the towns are right off the trail, because it mostly goes through very, very high populated areas. And you don't even have to resupply that much more than a couple days because there's a store right off the trail. It's super easy. Now, the PCT isn't that easy because you're going to be in places where you're in wilderness areas, but you can pretty much get by with 4 or 5 days. On the CDT, you may have to take enough food for you for 7 to 8 to 9 days, but it's hard to take that much food with you. So you have to really, really plan it out accordingly. There are places that you can get resupplies, of course, but you have to really, really be very good at planning to do through hiking. That's the thing. Now, people who do all three of these trails, do the Triple Crown, I have the most respect for because it's not something I would ever do. I mean, I'm not a thru hiker, and I'm always amazed by people who do these things. Number one, you can afford to take time off work, you can afford to do these, and you can hike 20 miles a day for 6 months. I don't want to do that. Of course, sometimes you take 0 days, which means you stay in town, you stay in a hotel, you take the day off, you do laundry, you take the first shower for 10 days. You imagine that, not taking a shower for 10 days. Yeah, you think you smell bad after a race? Try hiking 20 miles a day for 10 days and then taking your first shower. You think you smell bad? All right. Fastest known times. There aren't that many fastest known times for the CDT because it's such a weird trail and there's such alternatives to the trails. So not a lot of people want to do it, and it's such a tough trail as well. There are some, though. The fastest known times for male self-supported, Brendan Hickman has the fastest known time for male self-supported, 76 days, 10 hours, and 52 minutes. He did that last year, August 29th in 2023. That's really fast for that trail. Can you imagine? 76 days is considered really super fast. Now, the mixed gender team, self-supported, of Renee Miller and Tim Bessinger, did it in 135 days, 9 hours, 1 minute in September 14th, 2021. There has never been a female doing it on her own or with a supported team. So that's something, if you really want to do a fastest known time, you can do that. The CDT has always had kind of almost this mystical place in my heart because it's such almost an unattainable goal. I have no desire to do a thru hike. I just don't want to be, well, number one, I can't ever financially be gone that long, and I don't want to hike that long away from everything. It's just not of interest to me. Would I like to go hiking or trail running for a couple days? Would I like to maybe go up to the San Juans and maybe for a week and just do some hiking on it for a few days? Yeah, that would be fun. I would like to do that, but I have no desire to do a thru hike. But it's just so fascinating to watch videos of thru hikers doing the CDT on YouTube. I think that just it just amazes me. And watching these races that are up in this area of the CDT is also fascinates me. And I think it's really cool that we have these amazing, incredible trails in the US. I think they're just great to have, and wow, what a treasure, right? So I'll put a link down to one guy I'm watching who's actually out there right now doing it. His name is Energizer. He's out there doing the CDT right now. So I'll put a link to his YouTube channel if you want to check him out. He's pretty cool, and he's in really good shape. He's an older guy too, and he's doing it for mental health of veterans. I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool reason. All right. So that is the Continental Divide Trail. Now, I'm going to talk about my trail run and hike. I did as much hiking as I did running Saturday. I went up to Mt Tamalpais, which is in Marin County, just north of San Francisco. Now, I don't own a car. I live in downtown San Francisco. I don't own a vehicle. If I owned one, there would be no place to park it, and it would just be a hassle, and it would be very expensive. So I took Marin Golden Gate Transit up to Marin City, and then they have this little part of Golden Gate Transit that's called the West Marin Stage, where you can take the 61, and that takes you up to Mount Tam, and you can take it out to Stinson Beach. Now, it works great getting up to the mountain, but it doesn't work great getting back, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So I took it up to Mount Tam, and it got me up to Pantole Station, which you can camp at if you want. Camping reservations are difficult to get, but you can camp up there, which is kind of cool. And I went up there and I decided I was going to go on this trail that I have never been on before called the Bolinas Ridge Trail. I thought that would be fun. And it was. It was very cold up there. It was windy and foggy and cold. Really cold. I took my windbreaker. I wore that up and I never took it off. I did wear shorts. I could have worn long pants. That would have been fine. But I wore shorts and I never took my windbreaker off. I was freezing. So cold. So I went out and I did about 4 miles. I went 4 miles out and 4 miles back, and I had a really, really nice run. It's a nice trail. I'd like to go out farther, but I don't know if I'm going to now, and I'll tell you why. But it was nice. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I came back and I said, okay, I got back in time to catch the bus, the 61 bus going back into Marin City. But it came up, it was about 2:00, and it came and said, I'm sorry, I'm full. I can't take you back down. The bus coming back, it stops in Stinson Beach. And I forgot, it's been a few years since I've taken it. But what happens is that everybody, all the tourists, they hike down to Stinson Beach and then they take the bus back. First of all, there was enough room for me to squeeze on there. There was enough room. But he just didn't want to for some reason. And second of all, yeah, it is tourist season, and I did forget about that. So I should have made my plans differently. I should have did a different run, did my run to run down to Mill Valley to the bottom of Mt Tam and not stayed at the top. That was my own fault for that, because I forgot about how this bus is. Besides that, I was stuck up there. So the next bus was in an hour. So what do? Wait for the next bus and not get on that bus as well? It was about 4.5 miles down to Stinson Beach. I could go down there and wait for that bus and miss that bus and then be stuck in Stinson Beach. Or I could go 5-6 miles down into Mill Valley. And I was really tired. I'd eaten all my food and I was not really up for that far of a hike down. So I was thinking I could ask strangers who were done if they could give me a ride down the hill. I was that desperate. I would have gone down. I would have just taken the Dipsy Trail down. There were some uphills that were nasty, and I really wasn't up for it because my legs were very tired at that point. I would have done that had I needed to. The state park police truck had just pulled up there, so I thought I would ask the officer what he thought I should do. So I asked him, his name was Tom, and I asked him, I said, hey, the bus pulled up. He couldn't take me. He said he was full. What do you think I should do? And he actually said, well, I can give you a ride, but I could only give you a ride to the limit of my jurisdiction. And I never asked him for a ride. I wasn't going to ask him for a ride, but he offered. And the end of his jurisdiction would be the panoramic highway at the Dipsy Trail. And that would mean I would only have to go like 1.5 miles down the hill, down the stairs. And I thought that was amazing. So I said, please, that would be so incredible if you could do that. So he gave me a ride to the panoramic highway and the Dipsy stairs where they go down into Mill Valley. And I was so grateful. Well, that my gratefulness didn't stop there. I got out of the truck and I started walking down, and then I realized that my glasses had slipped out of my pocket. And oh no, I left my glasses. My glasses fell out in his truck. So as I'm crossing the street, starting down there, I hear this, and we had introduced each other. I hear this shouting, Martha, Martha, and sure enough, there's Tom with my glasses. Oh my gosh, what an amazing person. I was so happy. I had my glasses. He saved me about 3 miles and a couple miles of really, really tough uphill. What an incredible person. I tell you, wow. He saved me so much. And I was so grateful. So I went down the stairs, I went into Mill Valley, and I took the 17 Golden Gate Transit bus to Marin City, and then I took the 130 home. I've forgotten how awful those that West Marin stage is. It's fine going up to the mountain, but you cannot rely on that getting back home unless you go all the way to Stinson Beach. You just can't. It's not going to happen. If you think you're going to get a ride back on that 61, unless you go to Stinson Beach, you're not. You're just not, especially in summer, in tourist season. It's not going to happen. So don't rely on that coming back. I think as my runs get longer, of course, I'm not going to be just up there at Mount Tam and just stay up the top there. What I'll do is my next run that I'm planning to do, I'm going to go up at that area. I'm going to go up to Mount Tam, and then I'm going to go down through, down towards Muir Beach and go up to Diaz Ridge and go down to Tennessee Valley and go out that way and then take Golden Gate Transit home. So I won't have to worry about that. I won't even be involved in coming back from the Panoramic Highway at all. So that will save that. But what a pain in the neck. My goodness. I mean, such high highs and low lows, and just having a really nice person help me out. It's certainly nice to have that happen. And I could tell that I pushed myself too far because my quad muscles cramped up when I got home. I took a shower, and then after my shower, my quad muscles cramped up big time. So I said, yeah, I did way too much today. It's way different when you trail run and hike than when you're getting the miles done on cement. I'll tell you that. Especially when there's lots of hills. Lots of hills on a trail is way different than on cement. I'll tell you that. But that was my weekend, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty fun. I'm pretty happy. I'm happy I went up there. I'm happy how it turned out. I learned my lesson, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, I wish I had a car. If I had a car, this wouldn't happen. There's a reason why I don't do a whole lot of trail races. I don't have a vehicle. So, yeah. But when I move out of here, and I will eventually in the next couple of years, I will have a vehicle, and I'll be able to do a lot of trail races and be able to go out and train wherever I want. But that will come later. All right, so that is it for today. My website is martharunstheworld.com. My email is martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.